We begin on a sad note. Nigeria is mourning the loss of one of its most prominent political figures, former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on Sunday following an undisclosed illness. Buhari, who served as Nigeria's head of state in both military and civilian capacities, held office as a democratically elected president from 2015 to 2023. The former president's death at the age of 82 has drawn tributes from across the political spectrum, with many remembering him as a man of integrity, known for his conservative lifestyle and dogged anti-corruption stance. The Central Sagir Ibrahim looks back at the life and times of Nigeria's past presidents.
Muhammadu Buhari, who served as Nigeria's president from 2015 to 2023, the immediate predecessor of President Bola Tinubu, has passed on. In a statement signed by his former senior special assistant on publicity, the former president passed away after a brief illness in London. Born on December 17, 1942, in Daura, Kano State, Buhari hailed from a modest Islamic background in northwest Nigeria. He trained at the Nigerian Military Training College and later received further military education in the United Kingdom and United States. As a young officer, he fought in the Nigerian Civil War and steadily rose through the ranks of the military. In 1983, Buhari emerged as Nigeria's military head of state following a coup that ousted the civilian government of President Shagari. His regime was noted for its anti-corruption drive and the launch of the war against indiscipline. However, he was deposed in 1985 by General Ibrahim Babangida and subsequently spent several years in detention. After his release, Buhari exited the military and took up roles in public service before venturing into politics. He ran unsuccessfully for the presidency 3 times before his historic victory in 2015 when he defeated incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan, a victory making him the first opposition candidate to win a presidential election in Nigeria. During his 2-term presidency, Buhari focused on anti-corruption, economic reform, and national security. While initially praised for his integrity, his administration faced criticism over economic downturns, rising unemployment, growing insecurity, and mass protest, most notably the EndSARS protest. Despite these challenges, his government recorded landmark reforms including the passage of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, and the Electoral Amendment Act 2022. Other notable programs include the Anchors Boroughs Program, National Social Investment Program, among others. In 2023, Buhari handed over power to President Bola Tinubu and formally retired from active public life. Since then, he has made only a handful of public appearances. Though the nature of his illness was not disclosed, Buhari had been receiving medical treatment in London in the days leading up to his death on Sunday, July 13, 2025. As expected, his passing has triggered a wave of condolences from across Nigeria, particularly from government officials and political leaders across party lines. To many, Muhammadu Buhari was a symbol of simplicity and discipline, a towering figure in northern politics and a staunch anti-corruption advocate. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
In the meantime, Presidents Bola Tinubu and other Nigeria's past heads of state are expected to converge on Daura on Monday as the remains of former President Muhammadu Buhari will be laid to rest in keeping with Islamic tradition. Sources from the presidency confirmed that the former president's remains would arrive the country early on Monday to be flown to his hometown of Daura, Kano State, for burial. Expectedly, his demise has triggered an outpour of condolences from Nigerians, especially political leaders. President Bola Tinubu, who took over from Buhari in 2023, was among the first to mourn the former leader. He summoned an emergency session of the Federal Executive Council scheduled for Tuesday, July 15, 2025, in honor of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Former military President General Ibrahim Babangida, retired, has also paid a tribute to the late former president, describing him as a brother, friend, and a true patriot whose life was defined by unwavering commitment to the nation. Former President Goodluck Jonathan expressed grief over the death of Muhammadu Buhari, who succeeded him in office. In a statement, Jonathan described Buhari as a notable leader, a patriot, and an elder statesman who served to the best of his abilities. The President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, among other notable figures, have also condoled with the family of the late president. Let's also tell you that Vice President Kashim Shettima has arrived in London to oversee arrangements for the return of the remains of former President Muhammadu Buhari to Nigeria. This follows a directive from President Bola Tinubu, who tasked Shettima and his Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, with the coordination of the repatriation. Shettima's delegation was received by Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tugar and Kano State Governor Babagana Zulum at a private facility in London. Authorities are now finalizing logistics for transporting the late president's body back home for burial and official state rites. Further updates on the journey and funeral arrangements are expected from the presidency in the coming hours. Former Delta State Governor Chief James Ibori says he is saddened at the death of Nigeria's immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari. In a statement on Sunday, Ibori described Buhari as a patriot with unwavering commitment to the unity of Nigeria. He added that Buhari was a selfless, disciplined, and patriotic Nigerian whose invaluable contributions to the socio-political development of the country remains unequaled and will not be forgotten. While condoling with President Bola Tinubu, former First Lady Aishat Buhari, and entire Nigerians, Ibori said the late Buhari was a hero and a great son of Nigeria whose life has been a life devoted to the service of his fatherland. Still talking about the death of the late former president of Nigeria, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, on Sunday in the night paid tribute to the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, who died in London. Obasanjo described him as a patriot who played his role as a soldier, as an administrator and statesman. Obasanjo, who spoke in Abeokuta, Ogun State, said Buhari died when Nigeria needs experience of past leaders to pull the country out of its current crisis.
Muhammadu, that he tried his best. My prayer is that God will forgive him of his inadequacies and accept him into his kingdom. It's a loss to the nation because at a time like this, we need the totality of the experience and what I may call statesmanship of all those who have had opportunity to run the affairs of this country in the past to get us out of the situation we are in. He will be sorely missed, and may his soul rest in perfect peace.
Now, the Kano State government has declared Monday, July 14, 2025, a working day to honor the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The announcement made by the Secretary to the State Government, Abdullahi Faskari, followed Buhari's passing in London on Sunday. The decision allows civil servants and residents in the state to observe a day of mourning and offer prayers for the late president. Governor Diko Rada described the late Buhari as a patriotic leader and dedicated statesman who served Nigeria with distinction. Condolences were extended to Buhari's family, Katsina residents, and the nation at large. The state government noted that further information regarding Buhari burial and the arrangements will be announced subsequently. Our correspondent, Jamil Mabai, is in Daura, the late President Buhari's country home, and we'll cross over to him now for some updates. Hello, Jamil. A pleasant afternoon to you. But then we understand the situation in Kano State would be that of somber. And we'd like to get more updates from you as regards how people in Kano State are feeling about the demise of the late president.
As I spoke earlier this morning, virtually all the people that were spoken with, they expressed pain and grief, and they described the relationship, the kind of relationship they had with the former president. And since morning, we've been to the president house, and we're here at the Emir's Palace, where we thought or we expect by now people will start trooping into the areas to pay their commissions. Still quiet behind, and virtually the town of Daura is quiet. Most of the shop and commercial activities have been halted. I could recall even restaurants were closed; they did not open, and this is attributed to kind of a solidarity and the mourning to show their solidarity to the former president who lost his life yesterday. And but far away back in Kano State, the airport has been busy. The governor has returned from London. I learned the governor went to London to check the president. He left yesterday. He's now back in Katsina. And from some of the sources and some of the social media posts we've been reading, the airport is busy. Some of the guests have started arriving, and they are at the government house. So any moment from now, we expect to start seeing guests trooping in to pay their condolences to the emir, and probably from there they can proceed to the president's family house, or they go to the president's family house, then come to the emir. For any any further details with regard to the burial arrangement is still not yet out.
Okay, Jamil, we'll come to you probably in our subsequent bulletins to get more details from you, all right? Just keep up with what you're doing. We appreciate the updates that you've shared with us. To actually further discuss this, we're joined in the studio by Nelson Ekujumi, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for coming around.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And I also have Femi Adbeshola, who is the President's Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria. Dr. Adbeshola, it's nice to have you around too.
Thank you for having me.
So I'll start with Dr. Adbeshola. Now, how would you describe the late Muhammadu Buhari as a president, and of course, looking at his legacies?
Well, even in the midst of myriads of challenges, he still has a number of legacies that he had left behind. In his first coming as the head of state, we know him as a very principled man. He has zero tolerance for corruption, and even in his second coming, he was able to put up some stances that actually shows that he really loved Nigeria where there will be no corruption. For example, he was able to set up the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Fraud Investigation, which really helped in actually ensuring that fraud is being reduced to the barest minimal. We also discovered that he was able to also institutionalize some social welfare packages, like it was mentioned earlier. We have the N-Power, which employed a number of our youths. We have also the treasury money and money markets, which also put money.
Dr. Adbeshola, I think we just lost communication with Dr. Adbeshola. But Mr. Kujumi, I'd like to get more details as regards his administration. Part of what he stood out for was fighting corruption. Do you think that that actually translated into real institutional changes?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to commiserate with Nigerians and the people of Katsina State, as well as his family, over this untimely deaths. This was least expected at this point in time, and like former President Obasanjo rightly said, you'll be sorely missed, because this is a time we needed people with experience like former President Muhammadu Buhari. Looking at his anti-corruption stance, as much as we want to agree that very little was achieved, but we cannot run away from the institutional innovation with regards to the fighting corruption with the whistleblowers policy. That was an institutional, re-engineering to aid the fight against corruption. And I'm aware that so many other institutional, engineering took place under the EFCC as well as other anti-corruption agencies under that anti-corruption manifesto of former President Muhammadu Buhari, part of which I believe was what made us to come out of that trap of the P&ID, scam of the debts. So the legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari is something that has become indelible in the minds of we Nigerians. This was a man who will forever be grateful for acknowledging June 12th as, Democracy Day, what his predecessors could not do. President Muhammadu Buhari will also be remembered as a president who came at a very turbulent time in Nigeria's economic and political history. You remember when he came in 2015, over half of the states in Nigeria were owing workers backlog of salaries. And he granted loans and, grants to states in order to be able to, fulfill that responsibilities to their citizens. And President Muhammadu Buhari will also be remembered for a lot of infrastructural renewal that took place across Nigeria. Since the birth of Nigeria in 1960, I'm not sure we've had any president who has touched infrastructure in Nigeria the way President Muhammadu Buhari did in 8 years. We must also not run away from the fact or try to pretend that we are not aware that it came at a time where even, the global economy suffered collapse, total collapse, from the havoc wreaked by COVID-19, of which we are still trying to get out from. So if you look at President Muhammadu Buhari, by and large, here was a man who was very simple, a man who was very honest, a man who was very disciplined, a devout Muslim, and a faithful husband to the wife, as well as a good father to his children. And he replicated that with his commitment to Nigeria. He was a man who gave his all to the country Nigeria, because he served us as a military officer, becoming head of state, and later on transmitted to becoming a civilian president. So President Muhammadu Buhari has lived a fulfilled life as far as I'm concerned. And it is my prayers that the Almighty Allah will grant his soul al-Jannat Firdaus.
Another part that some people will talk about is the issue around national unity, security, and freedom of speech. In terms of your assessments, would you say that it lived up to his billing and upheld the tenets of democracy in those regards?
Absolutely. This was a man who was conscious of his oaths as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in carrying out that responsibility, he ensured that he did not in any way infringe on constitutional provisions, which is what to uphold. You look at some of the decisions he took. When those decisions went to court and the court ruled against those decisions, he kept them, he withdrew those decisions. You talked about the local government autonomy, for example, when he tried by executive, order, to grant local government autonomy, and the Supreme Court ruled against him. So President Muhammadu Buhari, if you look at his the right to freedom of speech, one thing you cannot run away from is that the right to freedom of speech comes with responsibility. The fact that you have the right does not mean you should trample on other person's right. People might have issues with the government's clamp down on those who went against the law, because people believe the freedom of speech is absolute, which is not correct. And if you look at the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, you look at his Anchors Borough scheme, for example, you look at the humanitarian ministry, whereby indigent Nigerians were accessed, social welfare schemes. I think that happened maybe decades ago, before some of us were born. But under President Muhammadu Buhari, we saw a new Nigeria that that was like those envisioned by our forefathers. And it is our prayers that and hope that the succeeding administration after President Muhammadu Buhari will continue to build on his legacy and even surpass what he put on ground before exiting in 2023.
Okay, let me come to Dr. Egbeshola. I'm glad that he's back now. Now, President Buhari presided over a turbulent economic period, just as Nelson has said, including multiple recessions and forex crisis. Now, when you put all that together, would you say that he fared in managing them?
Yes, I would say that he tried his best under the circumstance that Nigeria was really troubled, particularly with macroeconomic indices at that point in time. Even with all of that, he was able to take a number of bold steps, although with certain challenges and crises here and there. He did his very best. We could also say that some school of thought will also believe that even in the midst of fighting corruption, trying to put the economy in shape, there are incidences that shows that he wasn't able to achieve optimally. But within his limits, I would say that he did his very best. I would also want to mention too that it's also instructive to mention that some of the initiatives that he started during his regime are still yielding very good fruits for the economy at this time. One out of many, as it was mentioned the other time, is the need for us to run away from being dependent on imports. He was able to put up a number of products, particularly food items, on the import ban list that tourists were not made available to import them into the country. That really helped to revolutionize the agricultural sector. And today we have more input when it comes to rice production and some other agricultural production. You also remember that it was during his time that he bet the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, which also helped to digitalize a number of platforms, particularly in the internal workings of the MDAs. We also remember too that it was able to bring about transformation in the rail system. We have a situation now that we have a modernized rail system from Abuja to Kaduna, from Lagos to Ibadan, and even to Warri. We also have even the roads too, the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, the Kaduna-Abuja Express Road, as some of the initiatives he did to transform the economy. Yes, we will say that there are some occurrences during this period. There's some serious security challenges during this period. We also discovered that we have more debt profile. The debt was rising during this period. Inflation was also high. And of course, we have a number of unemployment here and there. Those are some of the things that are also common with many leaders in Africa, particularly in our nation here in Nigeria. It's not synonymous to Buhari alone. But give and take, I would say that he has done his best and he has put down a footprint that will always be remembered over the years. It's now left for those who take over from him to try to see those challenges he faced during his tenure and look at how they can correct it and make better an economy that Nigeria and Nigerians will be proud of.
All right, even as we wrap up on this, excuse me, Professor Kujemi, how would you describe him in terms of his representation for Nigeria and Africa on the global stage? Just about a couple of minutes.
Well, I would describe him as a unifier because this was a man who tried his best, most especially to unify the West African sub-region. You remember when immediately he assumed the reins of power, he tried to rally the West African sub-region against insurgency and terrorism. So looking at former President Muhammadu Buhari with regards to Nigeria, you saw that some of his best friends, people closest to him, were people from other ethnic nationalities. You talk about even our late father, who also joined him yesterday in transiting, the Awujale of Ijebu land. He was a very close friend of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And you saw his relationship even with despite the blackmail and campaign and calumny against his religious persuasion, he proved himself as a statesman, as a man who was tolerant of other religious faiths and persons. And that in a large way ensured that the issue of religion that people had tried to paint in black was unable to surface or rear its ugly head throughout his 8 years tenure. So by and large, former President Muhammadu Buhari has done his best. He came at a very difficult time in our history, and I know that it's coming. Like a lot of us rightly adduced then, it was divine. And we can only thank the Almighty that he bequeathed such a fine gentleman, a fine Nigerian, a fine African, to rule over the biggest black nation on Mother Earth.
Well, of course, we condole with Nigeria and pray that God will grant him eternal rest. Thank you so much, Nelson Okujimi, and I'm Dr. Femi Edbeshala for sharing your thoughts with us on this. Now, Sikiru Kayode Adetono, the Awujale of Ijebu land, has died at the age of 91. The monarch passed away on Sunday, just hours after the announcement of the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari, his longtime friend and former head of state. Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun confirmed the monarch's death in a statement issued from Abeokuta, the state capital, on Sunday. Oba Adetono ascended the throne in 1960 and reigned for 65 years, during which he became widely respected for his leadership, foresight, and deep commitment to development. Our correspondent, Israel Iferobo, is live at Ijebu-Ode and now brings us updates. Israel, a pleasant afternoon to you. Let's have an understanding of what the ambience is like in Ijebu-Ode, having heard the demise of the monarch. Hello, Israel, can you hear me? Well, I'm guessing that our correspondent Israel is trying to establish himself on ground there, where we understand that people in Ijebu-Ode are at this moment mourning the death of the late Awujale of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetono, and it would be nice to get more details from our correspondent as regards how the situation is panning out there. But while we try to establish concrete communication with him, let's tell you that Air Peace flies from Lagos to Port Harcourt mid-Atlantic on Sunday after experiencing a runway excursion upon landing in the Port Harcourt International Airport. According to a statement from the airline, flight P47190 landed safely before veering slightly off the runway. The airline emphasized that there was no damage to the aircraft and that all passengers were unarmed. Air Peace has assured the public of its continued commitment to safety and maintaining the highest standards of operation. While the incident has been confirmed by the airline, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has yet to release an official statement. This comes just months after an earlier incident in May, when another Air Peace flight was grounded at Asaba International Airport after colliding with an antelope while taxiing, causing a disruption to scheduled flights. Now, flight schedules at Port Harcourt airports were disrupted on Sunday following an Air Peace aircraft skidding off the runway. And while some flights were cancelled, stranded passengers struggled to book alternative flights, seeking new travel arrangements amidst the disruption. However, efforts by News Central's Biola Festus to reach airport officials and Air Peace management proved fruitless.
We are currently at the Port Harcourt International Airport. This morning, an early morning flight skidded off the runway upon landing at the airport. Now, due to this incident, we have many passengers who are stranded. Their flights have been cancelled. Others have been rescheduled. Passengers said they've not been given any cognitive reason other than they said an unforeseen circumstance has led to the delay or cancellation of their flights. I have one of such passenger who has been had his flight cancelled and is here. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. I would like you to tell us the situation with your flight that you said was earlier scheduled for today.
Well, the situation is that the flight has been cancelled, and the company is making every effort to see how to ameliorate the suffering of the passengers by rescheduling flights, either tomorrow 12 o'clock or tomorrow 4:30. But there is no guarantee that there's going to be a flight to Lagos today. However, for some of us that will not be able to wait, will either ask for a refund or to and make an alternative arrangement to use another airline since the runway has been open, because it has been closed since morning till 3 o'clock when flights started operational again.
Okay, does this affect your activity? I mean, you had a schedule and that's why you're traveling. Does this affect you in any way?
Of course, that is why I am here trying to make other arrangements, because I have an important engagement that I would like to attend in Lagos tomorrow. But if that thing didn't work, however, I will have no option but to go back to the town and come back tomorrow and reschedule it for 12 noon tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much, sir. That was one of the passengers whose flight was cancelled due to the incident at the airport runway this morning. We are still trying to lay hold on the management to get them to tell us what actually happened, to give us some probably technical explanation to the incident this morning. But until then, many people are still stranded right here at the airport and are unable to fly. From Port Harcourt International Airport for News Central, Biola Festus.
Now, joining me to speak more on this aviation mishap is an aviation expert, Olumide Wanyo. Mr. Wanyo, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. Now, let's start with what happened on Sunday. What do you think could have caused the Air Peace plane to skid off the runway in Port Harcourt?
Let me don't go into speculations. As they say in the industry, you have to wait for the outcome of the investigation. But then, these are the options that are before us. One is either the aircraft pilot did not touch down at the beginning of the runway, maybe somewhere in the middle of the runway, and had to overshoot, or there was a windy condition at the point of touching down, and that made him veer off the runway, which is another possibility. Again, it might have touched down and probably the runway condition. It might be wet, they might have rubber or debris, or even the condition of the tires. So there's so many options there that you cannot pick one now until when the investigators come out and say this is why the aircraft. Again, it might even have landed appropriately there, but maybe the braking system did not work to capacity. So they don't work to optimal capacity, and that's also ensured could not hold the aircraft down. So all these options are open while we wait for the investigators to come out and tell us what really happened.
Well, while we wait for a detailed report on this, this isn't the first time we're hearing about safety issues, operational problems within the aviation sector. So looking at it from a larger perspective, is this a systemic problem that needs to be attended to urgently?
Well, let me put it this way: we are not doing badly when it comes to safety. You've seen I'm hearing of crashes all over the world in the last 1 year, and aircraft accidents and incidents. We have not done badly, but I can tell you that for Port Harcourt, there's been that issue of that runway excursion at that airport, and there have been some reports that have been made by the NSIB and submitted to the NCAA. Now, have those reports, have those recommendations been implemented to ensure there will not be reoccurrence? I think that's an area we need to look at now. If some of those reports have been implemented, so we don't get a reoccurrence. I am not saying that is linked to this, because if this is confirmed to be human error, then it has nothing to do with the runway condition or the wind or other natural causes there. So, but I'm saying that we have this situation now that happened before that Port Harcourt airport. There's been some reports on that on the runway condition at the Port Harcourt airport. At that report and have they been implemented over the years, and that would help us to see if it's not an issue of the runway or that of human error or any other factor.
Well, this would actually cause some sort of panic with the passengers, and of course disrupt their plans, or flight plans basically. What do you think that the air authorities and these airlines should be doing to manage the situation as regards the air commuters?
Well, quite truthfully, once there's an aircraft incident like that, serious incident for that, and where the runway is closed, there will be disruption to flight, and that's what
your reporter was saying there was at the airport yesterday. With these disruptions, you expect flights to be delayed, cancelled, passengers agitated over what are the options left for them. And the airport owner, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, have now reopened the runway, but with a shorter distance, 2,700 meters, not the 3,000 that the runway has. So 2,700 meters that is now open. It's not all aircraft that can land or use that airport now. So you would have to get the airlines would have to adjust their schedule now to the appropriate aircraft that can fly and use that 2,700 meters as a landing. The runway that it can use. So I think that's what we expect now. With that, flights will be delayed, some will be diverted, and it might take about 2-3 days before some of these schedules can return to normalcy. So yes, the airlines need to get across to their passengers, make alternate plans, and even inform them about the situation at hand and why this has happened. I'm not talking about the incident. I mean, why the flights are going to be delayed or diverted. They must come clear to the passengers.
Of course.
And make alternate plans for the passengers. That's the responsibility of the airlines.
Definitely.
And like the airport authority has done, they have put the airlines the runway available, and the airlines have to plan with that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Olumidowayo, for sharing your thoughts with us on this. And now we go back to the story of the late Aujale of Ijebuland, Oba Sikiru Kayode Aditono, who died at the age of 91. And of course, we have our correspondent, Israel Iferobo, who is in Ijebu right now, and definitely will be sharing details with us as regards the situation there. Israel, over to you now. Let's have an understanding of how the people in Ijebu are mourning the late monarch.
If you're asking for some sort of understanding of how the people here in Ijebu, they are receiving the death of the monarch, it's indeed a situation of deep sense of mourning for the people here. And indeed, they are expressing a grief in so many ways. Some are wailing, some are simply screaming, some of them are simply so quiet, but indeed, some they have gone ahead to remember the late monarch with a smile on their faces. Well, we have been told that the late monarch of Sikiru Adetona, who died yesterday at the age of 91, will be buried later on today here in Ijebu at about 4 p.m. And we hope to bring live pictures of that event where it commences. But so far, so good. The people here in Ijebu are reflecting on the passing of the late monarch. And just what you see just around me here in Ijebu, that right there is one of the markets that is named after the late Oba Sikiru Adetona. The people here have decided that all markets here in and around the state will be closed for now to ensure that the proper rights of passage for the Oba are observed, and indeed this is what we have been told. A circular was also shared so no one flouts that order. I spoke to the lodger of the market a while back, and we asked her that question, that why is this market closed and when will the market be reopened? And she says that she has no idea when that can happen, because if she allows the people into the market right now, they will start to go about their normal businesses. And when a king, when a monarch dies here in Ijebu, it is the tradition of the land that there will be no sort of buying or selling. And if they allow them to go into the market right now, they will resume buying and selling, which will be against the tradition of the land. The people here are mourning, and they have gone ahead to reflect on the late Oba in so many ways. But indeed, he will be a man, he will be remembered for some of the amazing work that he did here in Ijebu and across Nigeria. Lekon?
Of course, that must have been a great loss to the people in Ijebu, and we pray that they would have the fortitude to bear the loss, and of course, his soul will have eternal rest. Thank you so much, Israel, for sharing this with us. We'll communicate with you later on. Let's go on a short break now. When we return, we'll bring you the rest of the stories. Don't go away. 3 people have been confirmed dead and 7 others rescued after a 3-story building collapsed in the Abedi area of Sabon Gari, Kano State. The incident occurred late on Sunday night. The building, which was under construction, fell and also affected some nearby structures. Officials from the National Emergency Management Agency, the Federal and State Fire Services, the Federal Road Safety Corps, and the police are present at the scene to conduct rescue operations and maintain security. Authorities say several others may still be trapped in the rubble as search and rescue efforts continue.
Unfortunately, what I want to relate to you is that we've lost 3 human beings, or I can say adult. Then we rescue about 7 of them. And still people are under the rubbles. We are continuing the search and rescue this morning. But it's quite unfortunate. This kind of thing is repeating itself all the time, and we are always at the receiving end. We are losing lives. It's very unfortunate. In fact, when you look at how things are happening, I think we need to change our mind and the way we do things. When you look at buildings around this area, most of them are old buildings, and people are still trying to build on top of those things. I don't know.
We now take you to Central Africa to tell you that Cameroon's President Paul Biya has announced his candidacy for an 8th term in the upcoming presidential election scheduled for October 12, 2025. At 92 years old, Biya has ruled the country for nearly 43 years, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. His bid for re-election comes amid growing concerns about his health and ability to govern. While Biya remains the leader of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, internal divisions have surfaced within his party. In recent months, several long-time allies have distanced themselves, and key defections have raised questions about his continued dominance. Notably, former Employment Minister Issa Chiroma Bakari resigned from the government in June to contest the presidency under his own political party. In Southern Africa, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu with immediate effect following serious corruption allegations made by a provincial police chief. The announcement came during a televised address on Sunday, ending days of growing speculation about Mchunu's fate. Ramaphosa also disclosed the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate whether current or former senior officials played any role in facilitating criminal activities. The commission is expected to submit interim and final reports within 3 and 6 months, respectively. Mchunu, who was appointed police minister a year ago following the general elections, has denied any wrongdoing. He said the accusations were baseless. And so we have our African correspondent, Bongani Siziba, who will be briefly sharing some details with us as regards this latest development in South Africa. Bongani, over to you.
Good afternoon, Bacon, and also good afternoon to our viewers. As you can see behind me are the photo decision, that is the MK party for former President Jacob Zuma, registering their concerns about the address by President Cyril Ramaphosa last night, where he did not suspend. Actually, they expected that he was supposed to suspend the police minister after the allegations by the KZN commissioner that he is involved in criminal syndicates. But let me not take much time and bring in someone just to speak to us about why they are here and their concerns and what's the way forward. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for joining us here. Why is MK protesting today?
Thank you very much. Look, as MK party, Lieutenant General NEMA is the one to be supported. We are out to say we are supporting him. But what he has also alluded to when he was addressing the nation back then was the fact the youth team from KZN came out to Sharon to assist the police in campaign. And he showed us that in some of the clients.
Well, that is much we can actually take from South Africa as at this time. Well, definitely we'll get more details from our correspondent, Bongani Siziba, in our subsequent bulletins. That brings to an end the news for this hour. We'll look at our top stories before we go now. Tributes pour in as Nigeria mourns former President Buhari. 3 reported dead, 7 injured, several others trapped in Sabon Gari area of Kano State. We also told you that Cameroon's President Paul Biya announced his candidacy for 8th term in upcoming presidential election. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.